guys think's better, to use your middle finger or use your brain? How about my atheist friends? What do you think?
The middle finger is definitely funnier.
Yeah, but I mean, at a university, shouldn't we aspire? We're not just, this is not a comedy club, right? Right. So it's not a comedy club, guys. The reason why universities exist is to compare logic, reason, evidence, arguments, right points of view. And you don't do that through saying, I don't like that, here's a middle finger. I mean, you have the right to do that legally. What I'm saying is it doesn't advance the narrative. It doesn't help fulfill the mission of a university. The way you do that is you say, well, I think you're wrong, and here's why I think you're wrong, right? And what you do is you articulate a counterpoint. And we logically consider the evidence for the two different positions, and we try to figure out which one best comports to reality. That's how thinking people engage complex ideas, right? Would you agree with that? Hey, even if you're an atheist, you could. When I was an atheist, I would have agreed with that. When I was an atheist, I would have said, you know, you're right. You know, giving people the middle finger just because I have a different worldview is kind of silly, it's kind of childish. What I want to do, I think my ideas are better, and here's why I think they're better. Here's what they are, and here's why I think they're better than this option over here. Right? I think even atheists would agree with that. I think I've got Muslim friends who would agree with that, right? So that's kind of a general principle about inquiry. Any questions out there? My name is Rich. I'm up from Georgia. I am an alum of West Virginia University back in 1997. I did my undergraduate degrees here. I grew up in Fairmont. Still got family in Fairmont. Yes, sir.
What did you study?
Psychology and communication. Psychology was still here in Ogilvy back in those days. I know it's down over the hill now. And then communication was down there somewhere. I forget the name of the home down over the hill. What do you study?
I'm a chemistry and physics double major.
Nice, okay. Yeah. It's complex stuff.
Yes, it is.
So what are your spiritual beliefs?
I don't know. I've kind of figured out recently. I'm an atheist, but I want to look more into more spiritual beliefs.
Okay. What have you been finding in that journey?
A lot of complexities. I mean, I'm still early in it, you know. 20 years of age doesn't give you a lot, but...
Sure. Yeah. So, but I mean, you don't sound like an atheist, you sound like you're maybe agnostic, right? You just say you don't know, and you're open to going where the evidence leads, would you say?
Yeah, but there's no real way to know things outside of our universe, so...
Okay. So how did you come to that conclusion, that there's no real things to know, or no way to know?
There are ways to know things inside the universe, experimentation and everything, but you can't... I mean, as the Christians put it, you can't put God in a vial.
Yeah, it's true. You can't put him in a test tube, can you?
No.
Yeah. So, what do you... I'm just going to kind of make a big jump here. It's just a question. It's not a gotcha thing. What is your, in your understanding, who was Jesus of Nazareth?
Oh, I'm not a history major or a history buff in any sense of the word. If he existed, then he was just a man.
Just a man.
Just like the rest of us.
All right. So, you know, Jesus only did a public ministry for maybe like 3 years, approximately. And by the time he was crucified, which we know that did happen, that's history. It's not just in the Bible, it's also hostile, extra-biblical witnesses tell us that. By the time he was crucified, he really only had a following of probably a couple hundred people. Yeah. And Roman crucifixion was designed by the Romans to stamp out any movement that they perceived might be a threat, right? Any sort of uprising or insurrection.
Sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm not offering this as 100% definitive proof, just something to kind of consider. The Romans were really good at that. They were so effective at crucifying people in public, and that was the end of that movement. And yet, with the so-called Jesus cult, the Jesus following, the exact opposite of that happened. Like immediately, not, 100 years later. But the message went from Jerusalem, where he was crucified, and it started just within a matter of months and years, permeating all of the world. And literally millions of people coming to believe that Jesus Christ was the crucified and resurrected Son of God. Yeah, I'm not saying that proves it, but to me it's a very interesting historical phenomenon, if nothing else.
Well, that would be correct. I mean, if all this is true, then yeah, it's a crazy happenstance and circumstance. But I mean, what are your thoughts then on how Christianity's dwindling and how Islamic religions are growing at a faster rate as Christianity dwindles away. I mean,
yeah, I'd have to look at the numbers. I know in the global south right now, from what I hear, Christianity is actually exploding. Now, in what we call the Western world, like, you know, traditional Western civilization, kind of the Western European countries, America, Canada, you're right, that there is a diminishing, there is a turning away. But my understanding is places like Brazil, my wife and I, we work online extensively with Chinese, and the underground church is just enormous in China right now. It's like there's no doubt, there's absolutely no doubt that there are far more Bible-believing Christ followers in communist China right now than there are in North America. There's no doubt. And so I don't know if I'd have to look at the numbers, you know, and see where they're coming from and how they're derived. I would say this, though, I mean, and I think you probably agree, the sheer number doesn't, but it's true that most people are not truly Christ followers. That's never been the case, that the majority of humans have followed Jesus Christ. Even when most people said, I'm a Christian, they weren't really following Jesus Christ in their heart.
Well, how could you say that? That's a no true Scotsman fallacy. To your beliefs, they may not be following Christ, but in their own mind, they may be. And who are you to say that they're not Christians?
I'm not saying I'm judging them. I'm just going back to what Jesus said. And he said, like, for example, here's one example. He said, on the day of judgment, he said, many will say to me, Lord, Lord. So these are Christians, aren't Muslims he's talking about. They're not atheists. He's talking about people who profess to be Christians. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord. That repetition was a term of endearment. They were professing to have a close relationship with Jesus. They'll say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, cast out demons in your name do many mighty works? And he said, and I will confess to them, depart from me, you workers of iniquity, I never knew you. And so, like, right there he's talking about the difference between people who profess to be Christians, right, and people who actually have been born again. And those are not synonymous groups. But to your point, you know, I don't know that the Bible never really says that in this present state of reality until Christ returns that false beliefs would be eradicated. In fact, it seems to clearly indicate that they would persevere, right? And so it's not really a numbers game. Only God knows the true number, right? But it's about being on the right side of what God has revealed, what God has made plain. And of course, that's who we're convinced that Jesus is, the plain revelation of God. That God hasn't left us in the dark. He's revealed something objective about himself. In fact, he's done that himself in the person, in the work of Jesus of Nazareth. So I would encourage you, as you explore, do you have a Bible? Do you read it?
Oh, I've read the Bible.
Yeah. Well, maybe just keep it in the mix, you know, and read, when you get a chance, reread the Gospels. Read the Gospel of John.
Yeah,
and just say, I don't know what this, you know, just be honest with God, say, God, I don't know if you're there, I don't know what this is, but if this is really true, if it's giving me true information about who Jesus is, and what he did, right, and how I can know you through him, then God, will you show me that as I read?
I've read the Bible. I was a Christian a long time ago. I'm beyond that. And I'm not in an intellectual way, just in a way of I'm just beyond that.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more what you mean by that?
It's been many a years since I've been a Christian, and it's really not for me.
But can you tell me why, specifically? It's boring, okay. Would you agree with that? Would you say it's boring?
I wouldn't say it's boring. I took a big pick into theology a long time ago. It was almost when I came here for my major. I was very interested in religion. God never spoke to me in a way that he may speak to other people. And so I moved away from that. And my personal belief is that I don't believe in a God, and so I've kind of stepped away from religions with gods. As there's no way to prove God. There's no way to really, what's the word I'm looking for? I just don't believe there's a God, and I find that involving myself with the God would be a waste of my own time.
So what's your name, my friend?
My name is Braden.
Braden, okay, my name's Rich. Pleasure to meet you, Braden. Braden, what would you say that this journey that you're on, what is the objective of it? What are you trying to discover or find out?
It's never an objective. It's simply just finding what is me, what makes me me.
Okay. So it's about your sense of identity and kind of
It's not all religion about sense of identity.
yes, but maybe not the way. I don't think it's primarily an internal identity. What we're going to discover is who God is, right? And then how we can really know who we are once that's been made clear to us who He is.
We just have different beliefs. We can agree and disagree on that.
Yeah, I agree. We can agree and disagree, and I appreciate you. I really do. But here's the thing about my question to you is there an objective truth here? Does God either objectively truly exist or not exist? Is one of those two states of reality really true?
How is it possible that, is there not a way that there is an in-between? I mean, God can exist as a non-intelligent being, almost like a force within the universe, or...
Yeah, but you know that's not what we believe.
Of course it's not what you believe, but it's what other people believe.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds of thousands of beliefs that have gone through all our history, some that may be true, some that may be not. Parts that can be true, parts that can be false. And to say that your objective reality has to be true is ignorant and arrogant.
Well, I'm saying there is, that's not my claim. My claim is that there is an objective reality.
Of course there's an objective reality.
So we can either be right about it or we can be wrong about it, but it is what it is. Now here's the statement, brother, you gave me earlier about the triangle. Yeah, the triangle, and I'm not trying to be snarky, but I heard this earlier and I liked it. A triangle has three sides, whether or not I agree that it has three sides, or whether I say no, it has two, or has 18, or whatever. But the truth of reality, the truth of the matter is it has three sides.
But that analogy doesn't fit in the way that you will produce God, as there's no current objective truth about God. There is your subjective truth and there's mine. I don't believe in Him and you do. But you have no way to objectively prove your God, and I have no way to objectively disprove your God. There's no objective truth surrounding God. And to say that you know the objective truth and I don't, or that I know the objective truth and you don't, is once again ignorant and arrogant.
So do you believe that we can have knowledge of anything?
Yes, of course we can have knowledge of things. There's ways to experimentally prove things.
Based upon what? Like if I say that wall right there is 40 feet tall, right?
Yes.
But I could be wrong.
Of course you could be wrong.
Okay, do I have knowledge of that?
You can find knowledge of that. But how do you find knowledge of your God? Don't try to stray away and try to prove things within reality and compare your God to actual reality things.
The issue is one of epistemology. It's epistemology. On what basis do we assert that we have knowledge of anything?
We have knowledge of things by proving they exist.
What do you use to
cannot
prove that they
prove it,
exist?
you don't have knowledge of it.
Well, what is your mechanism for proving that they exist?
Are you trying to get me on my thing that my senses could be wrong? I've heard this 1,000 times. It makes no sense.
Is that true?
My senses could be wrong, but the same way yours could. So we're back at square zero, at which neither one of us can prove anything. And so your God's not real because whatever. My God who doesn't exist is real, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you want to say that our senses can be disproven, then well, you are in the same boat as I am. And to say that your God tells you the truth means nothing, as your God
Our senses can be flawed. Our senses can be flawed. They can mislead us, right?
Of course, in the same way that yours can. To say that your God tells you the objective truth means nothing.
So,
your senses could be
can we know any facts? Do we have any truly justified, true beliefs?
We have to make an assumption that our senses are not
So no.
Yes, there are ways, and the same way that science works. Because if science doesn't work, if our senses are flawed, then we would find errors, and errors build up. So if I had an entire, wealth of knowledge, and there were things that were wrong with my senses, I would see that within continuous and tolerable errors to where my senses are flawed. And that's how we learn things. But if you start with the assumption that all senses are flawed, then you can prove that your senses are either right or reality is some kind of simulation that has been built by something.
So let me see if I understand you correctly. So you're articulating an epistemology of verificationism.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Yes and no. Like, you're trying to trap me into something here. But
not really. I'm just trying to reiterate if I'm understanding you correctly. Am I understanding you correctly?
Not completely.
Okay, well, I'm trying. Maybe there's
yes,
parts that I'm missing.
No. So, I can verify things through the idea of testing it and reproducing those test results. If I can continuously reproduce test results, then I know this thing has to be some type of true. It may not be completely true, as there's no type of objective truth. There is understanding, and that objective truth is something we will never fully grasp. I read a book